There we go. All right, live, everyone. This is Dr. Fox. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties here. Still trying to learn how to do some of these streaming things. Hey, Chris, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
It's good. It's good. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming on today.
Good morning.
I don't know if you've seen it, but trying to up the game here a little bit at SOS. I'm trying to do some layouts, things like that. I'm not sure if everything's quite working right. So for anyone out there joining live right now, Brad, he's off out of town. He's on a road trip right now. And he said, I can't do Note to File live. So I thought, maybe I'll take this slot. For anyone who likes to listen to Note to File live, we'll bring this in and maybe start talking about some really important things for SOS. Number one is Save Our Sites Conference. It's going up very well. I don't know if you saw a backdrop, but I don't think it worked correctly. Very special things.
Well, it's covered by you and I, the backdrop, but I can see that it's there.
Yep, it's there. I made another really fancy overlay, but I don't think that, I don't think it quite works. So I got to figure out how to put us in front of that. That was my goal, but we'll figure that out later. For now, let's have this conversation. SaveOurSites.com. Thank you to our Save Our Sites Alliance. Eventually, you're going to see this with our camera faces over it. I'm just not there yet. And we'll see if we can't get Brad to help us out. So there's Dan. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Let's stream this to LinkedIn, Facebook, LinkedIn. I can only do 2 right now. Okay, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's on. Okay. CRC story.
CRC. Yep. So again, I'll click this one more time. I do want to give a big shout out to our Save Our Sites Alliance. If you see at the bottom, we've got One in Health, Green Fire, real time, clinically, Creo. Eventually, this is going to be our backdrop for our conversations, but we're just not there yet. Most importantly is maybe Brad can help us with that. But for now, let's get back to the
Love
basics
them.
here.
And if there's others out there, if your logo is missing and you're having FOMO, well, Fox is the right guy to talk to you. His new nickname today only, is FOMO Fox.
FOMO Fox. So big plug to Save Our Sites. Thanks for everyone for watching. But let's get down to business here. Brad's gone. I figured.
Where is Brad?
Oh, he's on a road trip. He's on a very special road trip.
He just leaves without
Business or
telling
pleasure.
anyone.
Yeah. But I thought, what better day to talk about Save Our Sites? The big deal about Save Our Sites is our coordinators. And I thought, let's have an open mic day today, and let's just talk about the challenges of our coordinators.
I mean, let's talk about the challenges of our site owner, because my coordinators are not here. I told one of them to be here, to be on camera, and that could be why she's not here.
She didn't want to be on camera. So I've
We'll
got some
catch her when
stories.
she walks in.
Let's talk about stories. So have both of you've been coordinators, right? You both coordinated visits, patient visits,
man.
right?
Still.
Yeah. Okay. So needless to say, have you had crazy challenges? And we're talking about like out on the field, things that you never thought should have happened that did, and somehow, some way you got through it. Have you ever had those moments as a coordinator?
All types, man. I mean, what are we talking? Safety, personal safety, or like just paperwork, or monitor?
Let's talk about it. I wanted to call it war stories, but we've all got our war stories from being a coordinator. Chris, let's start with you, man. So when I say, tell me your war story as a coordinator, what's one of the crazy stories you've ever had?
I don't really have one other than literally having a yelling match with a CRA.
Wow.
The only one that really, for whatever reason, comes to mind as a safety issue. I mean, unless you consider yelling at a CRA and potentially losing a study a safety issue.
Can you tell why were you yelling at a CRA?
Yeah, Chris, what's wrong with you?
What's going on?
The CRA actually at a later time got fired from the sponsor because she thought that she wrote the protocol, right? I mean, I'm guessing it to her line of thought, right? But there was an amendment coming out for the study shortly. Everybody knew it. The sponsor had informed all the sites. And she was insisting that something be done that wasn't in the current protocol, and the amendment hadn't finalized yet. She said, this will be in the amendment, do it now.
What?
And I told her that's not correct. The current protocol says it's to be done this way. So
wait, so that the protocol wasn't yet IRB approved. It wasn't the official version of the study. And the CRA said, do it anyway.
It was insisting that we do it what will soon be the amended way.
Yep.
And I was informing her, listen, I'm the coordinator. I know the PI is not here, but I'm sure the PI would agree or to do whatever the protocol says.
Yep.
And she was telling me, well, I'm telling you, that's not correct.
We had it the other way around, where there was a new protocol in place, but then the CRA said, don't sign the new informed consent yet. Don't reconsent the patients yet, even though there's a new protocol. It's the same thing.
Yeah, very similar.
Yep. Very similar.
In terms of safety, like true safety, the incident that comes to mind actually involves Dan. And I'm sure he remembers this.
I've got 3 personal safety ones. Like
the one where the dude you said you would never drive again. This is back when.
That's one of them. That's one of them.
That's the only one that really comes to mind, safety wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what about you, Dan? Let's hear a safety one.
Well, I mean, it's a little, the caveat is like when you work in psych research, like as I did most of my career, that's just par for the course. Like you're dealing with acute schizophrenics.
Oh,
some of them are, some of them really should be hospitalized.
Yeah, they're very ill.
And in California, it's not so easy, believe it or not, to get hospitalized. So, I mean, you have to be a grave danger to yourself or others. So this study, this was like 2006, 2007. We had to recruit patients that were sick enough, so acutely ill enough to be hospitalized, but were not.
Wow.
So I had to go out in the community. Like some of the doctors told me, hey, well, there's this boarding care I go to over there, and there's these patients. Like go talk to them, go talk to the nurse, and they'll tell you which ones want to do the study. So you go there, and the nurse tells you, okay, well, oh, you're from Doctor So and So. Okay, this patient here, and I mean, you got to actually debate like the ethics of this. This is where it's like a blurred line because how do you consent? This is like tangent, but how do you consent? And I've never figured it out. How do you consent an acutely ill schizophrenic who doesn't really know what's going on?
I got a
And
story to that.
Yeah.
I got a
That's like
story
a,
to
yeah,
that.
the
I got
dementia
stories on
studies also,
stories
yeah, a
on
lot of
stories,
them.
like that movie where you're dreaming within a dream. I mean,
Yeah.
we all got
So,
stories.
so that actually happened in a study in which the patient refused to sign the consent under their real name because they said they would die if they did. The sponsor said, just make note of this and accept it.
Yeah, yeah. And like some of these guys, like, okay, well, they don't have legally authorized representatives. Like, I know that's the textbook answer. Oh, have a
Mhm.
legally authorized and an impartial witness. Okay, but you're taking, and these protocols get passed, like IRB approved. You're taking a patient who's literally seeing dragons in the sky, all right, and you're having them sign a consent form. So
Mhm.
that's neither here nor there. I was way too young in this industry to think about the ethical and
LAR perspective.
yeah, I mean, I
Wow.
was just out there doing my thing, and this patient was in the back seat. I'm driving him back, and he's like having a psychotic breakdown, and I'm thinking, okay, this dude's gonna like choke me out. I mean, even the nurse was like, he could get agitated at times, but he should be okay now. So I had like an hour
Wow.
drive with him back to the site. I actually had to take him to the hospital for our inpatient study. He had no clue where he was going, but he was happy that he's getting out of his place and that he was going to get some pocket money.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, safety was a concern. I've also had a separate incident, a knife pulled out on me uh, in my office by another schizophrenic patient. Um,
Wow.
this one, he wasn't hostile. All right. Luckily for me, he's been known to fight people. He thought he was Brandon Lee. Did you ever meet him, Chris? Brandon Lee? The I actually forgot his real name, but Brandon Lee. Everyone just called him Brandon. He thought he was Bruce Lee's son. Like for real, if you would try to argue with him, he would get mad. So
I'm
you're like,
curious.
oh, Brandon, no worries, Brandon. Like everything's cool. And he was actually a chill patient, but he pulled out a knife on me in my office, like one of those little quick, you know,
Switchblade things?
yeah,
They're
like the
butterflies.
butterfly thing.
Yeah.
So I got scared, but he gave it to me as a gift. He's like, thank
So,
you for like treating me well. You're like, because he used to go to all these programs. He's like, thank you for treating me well. I wanted to give you this gift. Bruce Lee gave this to me. It's the eye of the tiger on it. I was like, wow, that was a close call, man. Like I started thinking like he was cool, but I started thinking more about okay, we got to be like careful with these type of patients because it's no joke. So anyone who's working like coordinating is hard enough, but in the psych space, it's like
Pretty crazy.
your safety's on the line at times.
did his, at least did his, I don't know how to phrase this without offending somebody out there, I'm sure, but I'm still going to say it. Did his delusion match his race? In other words, was he Asian?
No,
Yeah. So he was
no,
just fully gone.
he was white. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
fully gone.
what about your, I guess, war stories, so to speak, trying to navigate the industry? Like, did you ever get yourself put into like a timely situation where you had to meet a deadline that was really, really tight and you had to get something
Ah,
done?
Chris has a good story about when he was at Disneyland with a CRA. You want to tell that one?
Sure. So I was very new to research at the time. I think I had been a coordinator for maybe 6 months. And this, I like this CRA. She was very nice, very helpful. And this is a good point to anybody out there that's new to being a coordinator, or excuse me, new to being a CRA. Be nice to your coordinators because they'll help you out. Anyhow, I just brought my family to Disneyland. It was a Sunday, I believe. Yeah, Sunday. And she had my cell number, and I got a call from her, and she said she needed something done in EDC immediately, that she was getting a lot of push from those upstairs that this had to be done ASAP. And I explained to her, listen, I just got to Disneyland. My family will literally kill me if I drag them back home. Can this wait till tomorrow? And she goes, no, it has to be done today. But so long as it's done before midnight your time, that would be acceptable. I said, okay, I'll try and get out of here in time to get home before midnight and get this done. And I did. I made sure I was home in time to get it done. Yeah, and I wouldn't have done that if I didn't care for the CRA or the CRA was kind of nasty. So I'll take care of this tomorrow when I'm at work.
You missed the midnight fireworks because of the CRA being nice. That's sacrifice, guys. That's true sacrifice.
Yep.
We had one. You're gonna love this, especially as an administrator. You might like this, but we had a trial where the contract negotiators required pre-authorization before any dry ice was paid for, which means that it put our coordinators in this pickle where they had these samples that had to go out. It was timely. It had to be part of the labs. And before they were allowed to ship it out at any time after the visit, they had to go into a central office and say, hey, we've got samples. Can we get some dry ice? Can we make dry ice or use dry ice to ship these samples? And so it added this level of authority on to the budget negotiation parts, where it's like the coordinators, not only did they have to get samples out timely and prevent deviations, but also they had to go to the sponsor and say, hey, can we have dry ice to ship this sample every single time? So it put them in quite the pickle. That was an interesting, a timely one. It was a terrible logistic. We didn't put many patients on there because it was just terrible to try to do these visits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, finally, now Evelyn Valles. She's, for those that know Jaime Valles, that's his sister.
Hi.
Right? She's brand new. She's not a coordinator yet. She's a research assistant. Gonna be a coordinator and maybe in 2 months, 3 months. When are you done? She's in the CRC Academy. Right? She's got one story, but she wants to add a twist. She wants to say it in Spanish for our Latinos in clinical research and Spanish community. So Evelyn, take my seat. 3 minutes, whatever, however long you want to go. She's shy, guys. She's coming. Everyone give her a round of applause. She's coming on the spot. All right. Spanish. This is for LICR. We're going to take this out for Spanish. Here you go, Evelyn. Thank you.
Okay. Well, había un día que ocupábamos dry ice. We needed so far. So we went to all the stores around the area, even San Luis. I live in San Luis, so I called my mom, and she looked for this for dry ice at the stores at San Luis. There was no dry ice, not Foothills, not even Somerton. In Yuma, there was no dry ice anywhere. So it was so, at the end of everything, Dan has to go to Calexico.
Shout out to Judy Galindo for picking it up in San Diego, and Daisy went to El Centro to pick it up. That was the most expensive dry ice we ever bought. Fox told us to buy a machine. Now say the same thing in Spanish. We have a Spanish audience. Look, they're saying hola.
Oh, okay.
Say a whole thing in Spanish. We need this clip.
Nosotros nos localizamos en Yuma y hay muchos pueblos alrededor. Y ese día ocupamos dry ice, pero era urgente, it was an emergency. And so todo el mundo fue a buscar dry ice y no había dry ice. 30 millas alrededor no había dry ice. Tuvieron que ir hasta el centro de California a agarrar el dry ice. It was
Thank you, Evelyn. Gracias.
Thank you.
And Evelyn's going to be CRC soon. She's in the CRC Academy.
Good job, Evelyn.
Thank you guys. Watch out for her. we're gonna start doing like bilingual content on the Yuma Clinical Trials YouTube channel, but that's later. But right now she's in training. She's a coordinator in training. She's entering data. She's answering queries. That's enough horror stories in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part about that story, Dan, is coordinators helping coordinators. Like people, I mean, straight up, coordinators are a really tight knit community, and I can't tell you how many times there was a coordinator that was like kind of struggling. The others come up there, try to lift them up, take some of the load, make things better. They help each other. The CRCs are really, really good. They're supportive of each other.
You have to create a culture where the people are incentivized to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's all another. I mean, that's for SOS, for the site owners.
Exactly.
So a lot of these sites, a lot of you guys are creating cultures where people want to kill each other in their office.
Yeah.
And that's got issues, you know, and then if you don't manage it, that's naturally like the tendencies. So you've got to work on it. You got to put energy into eliminating or reducing entropy.
So, and to anyone out there listening, to all of our guests, if you've got a CRC story, tell us your trial and tribulation. Put it in text. Send me a link if you want to come on and talk about it. This is an open mic forum.
The dramatic ones are in psych, but I'm trying to think of a non-psych one that was dramatic. I mean, it's, you know, you get in arguments with study directors and CTMs here and there, but it's not like dramatic. I found like a common theme is we're the last patient advocates, like as sites and especially as coordinators, because I mean, even Evelyn, you know, she's brand new. She knows a lot of the patients way better than I do because she's more data. So at the end of the day, like she's a patient advocate, especially for the ones that don't speak English. Like it's only her and Daisy and Jaime that are here when they're here. So patient advocacy is real. Like sometimes you do have to fight for these patients to be able to get them in. I guess that's kind of a war story in and of itself.
It's a big question, Dan. Can you tell us what the difference is between an assistant and a coordinator?
Yeah, the way we define it, like Evelyn's here, she just started a few months ago. She's not a coordinator yet. The way I see a coordinator, you can manage all aspects of a study by yourself with no help. Obviously, you're going to have like clinical oversight. We're not telling you to sign lab results and do physical exams, but can you do a study from end to end, study startup to close out, to every single visit, answering every query, everything in between, regulatory too? That's a coordinator. I know other sites have different definitions. And then an assistant is someone, at least at my organization, that's working to become that, but is helping out with things like data entry right now, answering queries, pre-screening patients, making flyers, making recruitment material. But Evelyn's not ready to be alone with a patient, like, you know, for the whole visit, much less the whole study. Like she's not able to do that yet. She's in the CRC Academy. She's learning. We hope within 3 months she will be. But it may take longer, and that's okay. Like sometimes it takes 9 months, sometimes it takes a year.
Unless licensed to do so. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Unless licensed to do so in regards to lab. So,
so let's move to the happy moments. What's the happiest time you've ever had as a coordinator? Like your biggest victory, like slam dunk. Yes, this is awesome being a coordinator. I love what I'm doing. Really good.
I mean, my situation's unique because I was a coordinator site owner, so it'd be finally getting paid. I know most coordinators, maybe they get bonuses and that's like their happiest. I'm trying to think like a pure coordinator moment without money, like that has nothing to do with money.
Well, Dan's thinking, I'll let
you go. You go.
So I think both Dan and I are unique though, because it's just the patient interactions and the interesting stories. I mean, there's tons of them that were interesting. Some of them are inappropriate to share, but quite humorous. Yeah. Dan was there for one in particular that I can recall. He probably doesn't know what I'm talking about, but very humorous stories. You know, I mean, and don't take this wrong. It's not like we were laughing at them, right? But you may have a conversation with somebody. Oh my goodness, this person thinks this and did that, and tell the stories, and just very interesting stories with the patients. You know, some may, I guess, see that as being mean. I didn't, because obviously you're very kind to them and helpful if you can be while they're there. But even when they're saying things or whatever they're experiencing, and a lot of times they even found it funny, right? Then it's okay to laugh with them, which is completely different than, say, an oncology CRC. There's probably very little interesting, funny information that's being shared, right? It's a lot of SAEs and very sick people. So completely different environment.
Those were the happiest moments of my life, was actually oncology.
Really?
Those moments where, so we did a lot of prostate cancer studies, right?
Okay.
Prostate cancer is really interesting because obviously you're working with males who are aging a little bit, but you know, what's one of the key things that you do for prostate cancer treatments is a lot of hormone therapies, hormone deprivation, things like that. So you're working with these big, brawny, like biker dude males who are having a hard time and who have a really hard time showing their emotion. Their hormones are all messed up. And then you put them on a trial. And this trial just literally melts away tumors. And
Wow.
so you've got the situation where these guys, big burly biker dude, they're crying in the lab. They're so happy. They're hugging their families. Oh my gosh. You know, a lot of profanities thrown out. But those sheer joy, like those moments of sheer joy, like, oh my gosh, this is exactly why we do what we do. We've seen it oncology. Anyone in oncology who's been in a trial where it's actually worked. Rheumatology. People could barely walk, and then all of a sudden, after the trial, they have their lives back again. Or dermatology, psoriasis. Someone who hasn't worn shorts in 30 years actually had a chance to wear shorts. Sometimes it's the little things. But as a coordinator, we get to see that, the firsthand, the true impact of research. That's what I meant by those victories. Is like,
Sure.
have you ever had, like, you've witnessed the research work, and then you've witnessed what that does for that patient's life?
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dan? Have you ever had those?
Oh yeah, I mean those kind of stories, even as recently as this year. You know, you've got osteoarthritis of the knee study, year-long study. You can hear the crepitus like through the door. The door's closed. The physician's doing the knee exam, and you hear the cracking. A year later, patient's not using a cane. I mean, that's, you know, we have stories like this. In psych, it's similar. You see depression lifting off of the person as you're seeing them. You're seeing psychotic symptoms decreasing. You see, we've done tardive dyskinesia where we've seen movements, you know, involuntary movements. It's one of the side effects of antipsychotics is called the tardive dyskinesia, and we've seen those go away. So we've seen quality of life changes. We haven't worked in oncology where we've seen like life or death. I think that would be like the most dramatic, but we've seen definitely like tons of quality of life stuff. And I've actually had way more good experiences driving patients around than bad ones. Just getting to know them, hour-long drives with a patient, you're going to get to know them. And if you do that routinely, you develop a unique bond with the patient. You try to help them out. They help you out too. Like, you just get into conversation. So
there's something lost with the staff not driving patients anymore, with, you know, Uber and all of that. Now it's not necessary.
I agree.
It used to be necessary, and it was actually beneficial to patients, especially. Bless you, Dan.
Thank you.
They just got to know the staff, the coordinator, and or whoever else was driving.
It helped with retention.
Yep.
Tremendous. Sorry, listen to Pro cough. It helped with retention. I remember going. I had a rapport with this one particular patient. It was actually a breakthrough, Chris.
Mhm.
Patient wasn't answering their phone. They didn't want to get out of bed. We already knew what was happening. I said, I'm gonna just go. Like, I can talk him into it. I get there, he's not having a good day, but I talk him into it. He comes out, hey, let me buy you breakfast. Let's take you, we're not gonna do the blood you're gonna eat, but let's go get breakfast. Let's go to the site. So you missed that with Uber, and no Uber driver is doing all that. I mean,
Nope.
you're not getting that done. So that patient would have been lost to follow up. Instead, he made it through the study.
Yep.
And yeah, those are like situations I can think of where scaling the unscalable. I mean, no DCT tech. I don't care how advanced the AI is. I don't care if the AI can pierce through the black hole and pull out stuff that we don't know about. It's not able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, not
that
sure you
gets
can
lost.
teach empathy yet. An AI that's empathetic. Nah,
No.
I don't know, man. So, what about? Have you ever taken a stand for your patient or protected them against things that may have been happening in the industry?
Yes, recently
Yeah. So, how did that work out? Like, what happened?
they got randomized.
Yep. The fight for randomization.
Yep.
Having those, we had this one. It was literally all coordinators on deck. We had 24 hours to get a coordinator randomized. All of the coordinators jumped in. One spent 5 hours on the phone with tech support trying to get IVRX, just try and get that going. One started talking with the sponsor. They all just swarmed to help this one patient because we had such a short amount of time to get them on the trial.
Yep.
And there was like a certain exclusion that had to be met. So we had to bring in some specialists, bring in, certain assessments. I mean, those are the moments where, like what you were saying, Dan, that culture of helping each other.
Well, that's patient advocacy. Like if
Yeah.
you substitute that
Truly.
with DCT or tech, that patient's not getting in. Your patient's not getting in. My patient's not getting in. Chris has done this. I know he's done this for patients. So those things get lost. And like also those things get lost at the bigger sites. I mean, if you don't have a culture of like fighting for your patients where they're just another number, then you don't have that.
I agree. So anyone out in the crowd, how many, I don't know if you see how many people are viewing, but anyone in the crowd, what are your stories? What are your CRC stories?
Crowd. I wish you can just pull someone up from the crowd and get in here. Evelyn did a great job doing her English and Spanish. I'm going to use that for Latinos and clinical research.
That was
And
really good.
Inspired me, Dr. Fox, to buy a dry ice machine.
I'm telling you, so CRCs, I know that we're talking about CRC stories, but one of the CRC stories we had to do with dry ice.
Me and Chris still go to buy dry ice. We own sites,
Oh,
we own
man.
Sparrow, we own all this stuff. We still go out. I bought dry ice the other day. Luckily, they had it.
Mhm.
I bought it. So I'm gonna look into this dry ice machine.
Once you start, just go to your local the medical gas facility. You buy the cylinders. You get this device online. You can make your own blocks of dry ice.
You buy the
And-
CO2, right?
Yep, just buy the CO2. Buy the CO2 cylinders. I mean, people they sell it to cell culture. They sell the cylinders like that. It's kind of what it looks like. And then it's literally just a little box with a hose on it. Turn it on. It'll make some dry ice for you. You can make it on the spot. It really helps your site to do some good work.
They're not entirely. I'm googling it right now. They're not that expensive.
No,
Not expensive.
Not.
Dora found a good link after Fox told me,
mm-hmm.
and she found it, and I kind of like ignored her. But
Mm-hmm.
that like it makes small pieces. The bigger ones make bigger, but you can just make more. Like you just buy the CO2 and make more.
I mean, there's pellet machines. If you prefer pellets, there's the ones that make pellets. But they're more expensive than blocks.
We don't need all that. We break it down anyways.
Yeah, I mean, just use a hammer.
We got a hammer back here just for that.
So, what about the other end? Where have you had the biggest patient tragedies as a CRC? I mean, obviously there's some things that involve death, and we know that. But I mean, how did you handle that? Like, how do you manage the tragedies as a CRC?
Are you asking Dan and I? Because if you are, I doubt either of us have really dealt with that. Because CNS, you're not dealing with terminally ill patients.
I've had a case of actually 2 cases.
Suicide.
Yeah, both were suicide. Not during the study though, but it was after the study and sometime like months after. I think both of them, but I knew them well, and yeah, I mean, it's to be expected with psych. Like, we do scales: suicide, Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, and you do enough of them and you just go through the motions. But at the end of the day, you realize that, like, those are questions created by very smart people to assess these kind of things. And I mean, in both cases, there was nothing we could do. There was long after the studies were over, and it's more of maybe more of an illustration of the lack of psychiatric healthcare in this country, that we can do a whole podcast on that. But they were getting the best care. The fact that they didn't do that while they're in the study says a lot more about the healthcare system than what happened after they were out of our care.
Yeah.
And those are the 2 I know about. There's because they made the newspaper in Anaheim. There's probably dozens, sadly, that I don't. And that's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Chris?
The only death during a study that I am aware of was a patient that we wrote off as lost to follow-up because we couldn't get a hold of her. Found out after the study was closed by her brother. Somehow he got a hold of us and just wanted to let us know that she had died in a car accident.
Wow.
And this was after the study was closed and everything. So, but it was during the study, and we had written her off as lost follow-up because we couldn't find her. Unfortunately, she, like I said, died in a car accident.
It happens in oncology, and it can happen in the geriatric population. So any kind of a rheumatology things that can be assessed with geriatric populations, even immunocompromisation. If someone's immunocompromised, especially at an older age, they try to have some of those steroids, some of the immunotherapies, compromised immune systems, pretty nasty infections. It's very challenging as a coordinator, especially the long-term trials. Like we had a trial that went 13 years. You get to know these patients, their family. And when they're gone and you have to sit there and be a coordinator and fill out the documentation and follow the procedures, it can get challenging.
I bet.
So all kinds of things to do here. So
there's bad, and the CRC, it's often looked at as a stepping stone, which take it for what you want. There's a reason a lot of CRAs come back to being CRCs when they're fed up with being CRAs. Like, usually it's not like the money is one thing. Okay, if you can double your salary, it's very attractive for you to level up in your career. Mm-hmm. But then you realize, well, it may not be everything. Like, I could have flexibility of my life. Like my site, we allow coordinators, they take any time off you want, as long as you make
arrangements
for who's going to back you up on what and give them instructions. We have cheat sheets for every visit. It's not, it's not always about the money. I mean, we do what we can. We try to increase salaries as we grow, but there's a reason people keep coming back to CRC.
Yep.
And I think I've heard many a CRA tell me, hey, you know what? I really miss the patient engagement. I like on-site visits because I feel like I'm engaging with patients again, even though I'm not. At least I'm in a clinic. I'm in that environment. I had a CRA tell me that yesterday, actually, who was here. And so you take it for granted when you do it every day, and then you go and do most of your work on Zoom or in airports. So there's something special about this role. And let's not just ignore the fact that this industry, as much as nobody wants to admit, it's run by CRCs. Like the PIs, okay, they have oversight, safety oversight, but the CRCs are the ones doing 80 to 90% of the work at the site level. And without them, there is no research. Like how, and interestingly enough, all this tech talk and outsourcing and all this, who's never mentioned? CRCs. So you want to talk about job security? It's, in my opinion, the best. CRC, there's no tech going to replace a CRC.
So I got to ask you, Dan, do you have like Christmas parties for your CRCs during the holidays?
We've done it. We haven't done it with Yuma Clinical Trials yet because we're part of a larger medical group, so they invite us to theirs.
Okay.
We piggyback on theirs. But as we get larger, like we have 4 staff, 4 coordinators now, it makes sense to do it. Chris and I have done it before with our other sites many times, Southwest Clinical Trials. I remember paying some of those restaurant bills. Dang, man.
Yep.
Remember Yard House? This was like 08, 09.
Yep.
10. We had all 3 sites come to the Yard House, paid for everything. We had like 20 people or so. It was like, back then, it was like $1,200. Today would be like $2,200 for that bill.
Maybe more than that today.
Maybe more. So we've had that. We've done Secret Santas. We've done, we haven't done White Elephant. I kind of think that's corny. But yeah, Secret Santa's cool.
And that's the other thing I found is CRCs, they know how to party.
You've been in investigator meetings, man. I mean, can we?
Oh man,
this SOS after dark. Maybe we can't talk about that, but they get down. Let's just put it that way.
Yep. What happens at SOS stays at SOS, right?
Well, I don't even know if SOS is gonna get like that because some of these IMs I've been to, like I don't want to put myself in those situations again. So, I'll just leave it at that. CRCs know how to get down. It's all that like pent up stress. They let loose at these open bars.
Yeah, it's management of mental health, definitely. So, Chris, what about you? How do you celebrate your CRCs?
Well, Dan already described it. Generally speaking, now that Dan's in another location, like this last year, Dan wasn't here because usually we throw a combined party.
Okay.
This last year, though, we just went out to dinner with a small site. There's a few staff members, so 2 staff members, the PI, and myself went out to dinner.
I know Judy does like Mexico trips to like they.
Oh yeah, she's full out.
Right, she goes all out like Cancun and stuff. Like for her staff, I think the rule is she'll pay for the hotel and the food as long as you pay for your flight, which is cheap because they're going to Mexico. Like she does a week-long, all company, like all staff resort.
Wow.
Which that's levels. Like Judy's set the bar. We don't do any of that right now. That's not to say we won't, but that's going all out. But she's also run her site for like 15 years, the same site.
When she told me that, I was quite impressed. I was like, wow, I don't think I've heard anybody describe what you're describing to me in terms of you pay all expenses except for airfare, right?
Which is really cheap. If you go Volaris, it's like $100.
It's not bad.
Yeah, but those expenses are way more pricey than the airfare.
Thousands.
Yeah.
So do you think AMCs do that for their coordinators?
No. AMCs, well, I shouldn't speak for all of them, okay? I mean, here's what I know about AMCs. I monitored at one. A big one. I've also dealt with hundreds of stories like people like Lasma, who've asked me or told me, basically painted their situation. They see it as you're there because you're not going to be there in like a year or two. So they don't care about retention.
Mm-hmm.
Like they already know you're gone. They just want to extract what they can from you. And there's like this tension between how little can I do and get away with it versus like let's just have them do as much as we can get them to do. And not everyone's like that. I mean, I always get hate people telling me, "Oh no, it's not how it is here." Well, you're probably the exception, not the rule. But I could be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. But the hundreds of stories and I have very few like good stories from AMCs. I do have. They're like in the dozens, but they're outnumbered in the hundreds by the bad.
Honestly, I've heard the same thing. The people who stick around at AMCs for 10, 20, the long-term AMC employees, they're the ones who just aren't motivated. They're not driven.
Well,
They
there becomes a weird dynamic where you're defending the orthodoxy once you're in that type of organization.
Yep.
And it's us versus them, and like you are the orthodoxy, this is how things are done, everyone else in our industry is foolish. Can you believe they're for-profit companies doing research and we're not? We're noble. And I'm here to publish. And I mean, okay, there's a lot of truth to that, but at the end of the day, you're discrediting like the ones who do the heavy lifting are the for-profit sites out there at lake
Admittedly,
sites,
yeah.
restaurant
So
sites.
I don't know where the holier than thou SOP is in the AMC handbook, but it's there. And
It's
just like
there.
what you said, man, it's like, oh, we're the AMC. We're doing it for all the right reasons. You're a greedy person. It's like,
Yeah.
well, at least we get the stuff done.
Meanwhile, your management will chew you up and spit you out faster. Though I'm not. We don't want to get canceled, but they will chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah, and they will. They
Oh,
will.
something funny, Chris. I'll tell you after.
All right. Well, we got a few more minutes, man. This is like an open mic. This is kind of like an impromptu topic. I mean, you've talked to Brad before. Does Brad have any interesting coordinator stories?
I haven't actually talked to Brad about his coordinator story. I've talked to Brad about how he manages his staff because we have a
Oh,
lot.
I've got one. I've got one. What's the record number of tubes of blood you've had to collect out of a patient in one visit?
Too
A
bad
single
Daisy
visit.
here. Evelyn, you've only been here what, 2 months? What's the most tubes of blood you've seen so far drawn from one patient in one day? Only 5? I know Daisy's done like 15 one day. Oh, you haven't been here for all those. All right, she said 5. Daisy's done 15. ACTH stimulation, 30 minutes post-dose, 30 minutes pre-dose, time point 0, 60 minutes post-dose, and then the regular ones before all that. So, yeah, like 12 to 15. It's insane. Insane study.
Immuno study, 37 tubes.
Oh, my God.
I mean, we took a picture of it. These are all the tubes that have to be taken out of this visit.
At
30,
one
19.
time,
I'm seeing a 19 on here. What's our record number of tubes?
But not at one time. That's like what throughout the day, right?
Yeah, over the course of the visit.
Yeah. Because it's not even safe to do like 15 at once. You do like.
So I saw an IRB approved protocol that approved 1 liter of blood to be withdrawn from a patient.
A liter?
A liter of blood. And they said, well, you can just give them some orange juice. They'll be fine. That's what the sponsor said.
Well, imagine going through all that. All right. Imagine going through all that, Fox, and then them telling you, and we didn't draw a liter, right? But we drew like 15. You go through all that for the patient. Patient's in pain. You send them to do the eye exam, X-ray, all this other stuff. And then they tell you after all that, oh, well, the X-ray, you didn't use the right equipment. It wasn't the right angle. But they tell you this like 30 days later, like right before the window is to randomize. So you got to do all that again. And you're like, no, we're not. And then that's where the patient advocacy comes in. But
Mhm.
that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I mean, the thing, and well, so what about patient logistics? What's the craziest thing that you've ever like had to run a patient through because of a trial?
Chris got logistics story. Get him, Chris.
I'm sorry, I was reading a text. What's the question?
Chris, tell me your craziest logistics story trying to put a patient through logistics. Like, what did they run a patient through for a trial? You're like, this is just ridiculous. Why would they do this to this person?
I don't know what Dan's referring to. I can't think of anything that would match that question. I mean, CNS is difficult in terms of all the assessments that need to be done, all the questionnaires, and some studies it's a ridiculous amount. I mean, it can take nearly the entire day to do all of the assessments, but that's about as difficult as it gets in terms of the assessments that need to be done, or the hoops that need to be jumped through. Outside of that, it's not really too difficult.
What about like the trials that require fasting before you draw blood, but then also the trials that require certain procedures to be performed before the blood is drawn? So,
Oh yeah, that's always fun, especially with the mentally ill. They'll abide by the fasting. They'll arrive at the clinic fasting, but then they'll immediately be demanding food. And it's like, well, unfortunately, it's going to be a couple hours till we can provide you with any kind of food. And like almost every 5-10 minutes, they're requesting something to eat, right?
yeah.
That's probably true with healthy, normal people as well, or mentally healthy, normal. Sometimes I would imagine, but yeah, it becomes difficult at times to appease these individuals.
Yeah,
Thankfully, and this may sound awful, they all smoke. So if you just say, here's a cigarette, they'll usually leave you alone for a while.
That's a secret that the industry doesn't talk about is CNS, especially schizophrenia. Like almost all of them smoke. I would say 80%, and maybe that's low.
I think that's low.
Yeah. And it helps. There's actually science behind it. They've developed drugs that are nicotinic receptors. So the nicotine actually helps them feel normal. And so, yeah, we've given cigarettes as a retention tool. Sponsors have told us, use cigarette breaks, smoke breaks. See, the comments are saying the same. Now, in internal med, my current PI is against cigarettes. Like, even if he even smells cigarette smoke nearby, he like freaks out. He becomes like a bloodhound going to look for like where the cigarette is. So we don't have any smokers. He actually won't take patients that smoke. That's like been a night and day change. I haven't had to buy cigarettes in like years for patients.
So, have you ever done a trial and you're sitting there and you had to literally tell a sponsor, this trial is resulting in our patient suffering and maybe unnecessary suffering? I can give an example while you're thinking, but washouts. You ever had to do washouts? Where they're on a normal medication and then to be on the trial, they have to do a washout, but to wash out, they have to suffer. Like a lot of room studies, things like that. They're not allowed the medication that prevents pain.
We have pain studies. They do give rescue meds. They try to figure out ways around it. Psych is the same. Like, they'll wash off of their antipsychotics and they have to be in an inpatient unit while they're doing that because it could be a danger to self or others. But they have again, that's the proper procedure for that. No, I mean, occasionally when I argue with a sponsor, it's like, hey, this patient's like suffering unnecessarily due to your vendor's ineptitude to be quick, type of arguments, but nothing where I've ever told the sponsor like, hey, we just won't take those kind of studies if they're offered. This, we just won't take them.
What about you, Chris?
Nothing I can think of.
Nothing you can think of?
pretty
of a
careful
lawsuit.
about the studies we take. Like one of the things about being small is, you're limited by bandwidth. Like every study you take, you got to make sure you can enroll. And so we're incentivized to pick good studies for our patients.
Mhm. Yep, completely agree. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. I just want to make one point to the audience, whether you're listening to this now or you actually took the time to listen to this here. But I intentionally did not complain about the industry on this episode. So I really want to make it a point that Save Our Sites is here for the right reasons.
Wait, did we?
We may talk about AMCs a little bit, but
Yeah.
we didn't complain about money. We didn't complain about the whole dynamics between sponsors and sites and no. This was CRCs, their stories, because you're
Yep.
important to us. Like Dan said, CRCs are the industry.
Yeah.
Whether they're doing the work with the patients now or they're the professionals of the future. They're the future. They deserve that voice. They really need to do this. And I didn't complain about money. Not today. Because it's not all about money. It's about the impact of those patients.
Yeah, I mean, we'll complain at a later dates, that's for sure. But we're not today. It's not everything is about. Oh, and Lee. Well, shout out to Lee, man. I had an
Lee,
hour-long conversation with Lee yesterday. I'm probably gonna have to call him here soon. Lee, I have another call and then another call, so I'm gonna call you like towards the end of the day, man. I got like booked, like we're booked back to back, and then Evelyn's here. I gotta do some training. I promised her some training. Look, guys, the CRCs are asking for more training. Okay, like who does that? At which AMC does this happen? It doesn't happen. They try to like hide the whole day and leave. Over here, it's different, and there's something about small being the new big, and there's a reason why all these PE companies are buying smaller sites and bundling them up and flipping them to someone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Importantly, so all of the CRCs out there, I hope that you see this. It's about CRCs. We share our stories, and this may be a selfish plug. I got IRB approved to do a study to understand how we can help CRCs, how we can, what's important to a CRC, what are the challenges. I'm doing a study right now with the University of Illinois with some of the groups here. That survey that I sent out, fully IRB approved. We want to target over 300 people to take that survey. We really want a good database so we can understand how to help our CRCs. There's 15 who've taken it so far. We need a lot.
We'll get
of
one
people.
right now. We'll get Katie wherever she's at, and then Daisy tomorrow.
Means
And
a lot
tomorrow.
to CRCs. If you want a voice in this industry, not only is here a mic for SOS, this is all you. We appreciate you and we want you to be there. But
Chris Rosario can do it. Who's the other coordinator there? Lourdes. Who else? There's not a third?
Itzy.
All right, have them to redo it. We'll get, and then Brad. Well, Brad's not even here. Where are you, Brad?
yeah, but we need the CRC community to come together. We're here to help you. Here's your mic. All you got to do is speak up. So that's it.
Oh,
and
sure.
If you guys want to talk for a minute, I'll find the survey link. I'll put it in here. Or
okay.
I'll try. I'll put it on the
saveoursites.com. Saveoursites.com. Guys, let me look live. This is like a telethon while Fox is looking for.
let's hope this doesn't break my country internet. So, see what we can do.
Now I have to log in. Let's see here.
By the way, venue set. Here's a little an Easter egg for anyone still listening. It's very possible Save Our Sites is going to have a sponsor that has never been at a research conference before. So just think of it that way. Like this, there's a lot of people who are jumping on becoming part of the Save Our Sites Alliance, including some people you may not know, which I'm really excited about that.
Like there's so many people that I only know from like the internet that I've never met.
I've never met you, Dan.
I've
Not
never
yet.
met either. Actually, I've never met Brad as well in person.
So we need to do that.
First.
So, all right. Is there anyone watching?
I can't log in, so I don't know how many tickets we've sold. Forgot my password, and I didn't connect Versatile to that one.
Post is in the stream. I just posted it. It's on the stream for this live event. So if you have a chance, and if you want to look up CRPN, it's been posted on CRPN a couple times. Check out that survey. It's all about helping our CRCs to understand what they need to live happier and healthier professional lives.
What before I log in? What's the over under on 250? Do you have over or under? I'll take like $1 bets from each of you, Chris.
Ooh, I think we're over 250. I want to be ambitious and say we're at like 259.
All right, Chris, what's your
Like
over?
Price
under
is right over here.
What was the last number we were aware of? Like 229 or something like that?
249. We were at 249 at the last live event.
249. So are we over or under 250?
And that was like 3 weeks ago.
You already have too much info, man. What? Over or under?
I'm going to go with over as well.
Yeah, you're both right. It's 253. So Fox
Thank
was
you.
almost
Yep.
253. So thank you guys. Let's get it higher. We got till the end of the year and then it's done. And then there, no matter how much you beg, borrow, steal, you can't. There's no way you're gonna get in unless you buy your ticket this year.
Yep. And October 15th. It's coming up a lot faster than you know. October 15th is the deadline for sponsorships. So if you're not in our Save Our Science Alliance by October 15th, I mean, you're welcome to come, buy a ticket, come to SOS, but you won't be part of the Alliance. Not until the next conference.
You won't get all the sponsor benefits, which are plentiful. We're over delivering for sponsors.
Yeah, so by the way, just so everyone knows, again, I'm going to show this again, but we're working on this. I'm working on a better way. I think I know how to fix it, but this is going to be our background eventually, right? Proudly sponsored by, look at that, One in Health, Greenfire, Real Time, Clinically, Creo. There's more, by the way. They're going to be announced soon. So we've got sponsors. We've got some really well-known sponsors, and expect to see those sponsors on some of these roundtables because guess what? That's part of the sponsorship. It's not just a day.
I like Fox is the man of many nicknames, and today it's FOMO Fox. So
FOMO Fox.
I'll come up with.
Wait, I don't know if I want that. What's my nickname, everyone? Tell me what my nickname
Fox. You got too many. Yeah, good. Mean Fox. We haven't had a Mean Fox nickname yet.
All right, I'm targeting good old cutoff. It's noon. I think we've had our piece. If you have any CRC stories, leave them in the comments below. Reach out to us. If you want to come on, let us know. But thanks to our Save Our Sites Alliance sponsors. Thanks to those 253 who have supported Save Our Sites for the conference. SaveOurSites.com, February 2nd, 2024. Be there. And if you can't be there, come on to the roundtable. No big deal. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Dan. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.